So welcome everyone to the June 16th Arborist call. Just introduce Jason Rogers is going to be taking notes on the call. These notes will be published to GitHub after the call has ended at some point. Jason is funded through Zcash community grants. So this is something that we've always wanted. And it's great for people that aren't, necessarily able to attend the calls, live. Or, it might be easier for them just to process kind of a text summary of the call versus just watch the whole thing, in the recording on YouTube. So anyway, so welcome, Jason, and let us know how we can help, make what you're doing, easier or more straightforward. So, Arborist calls follow a fairly typical standard agenda. We do quick welcome and intro. And then we do research and implementation updates from the node implementations, that's Zcashd, Zcashd. And then we typically have a block for discussion time, which is where we do spend the bulk of conversation. The only specific agenda item I had today beyond the node updates is just an NU5 activation ecosystem update follow-up. Last Arborist call, we had a few partners we were working with to resolve some issues they were having. So just an update there. And then of course, at any point in time, if anyone has questions or comments or needs clarification, I think just raise your hand or drop it in the chat or whatever. So Arborist calls, for those that may not know, are where we talk about protocol engineering. And that could be timelines, like for NU5, we talked quite heavily about timelines and key events on the pipeline. But it's R&D efforts, design, implementation, new features, blockers, really anything and everything related to protocol. Anyone can participate. We encourage people to join these live if they can. We alternate the times. We have these every other week and we alternate times. So hopefully more people around the world find one at least in an acceptable time zone and can join. If there's something you'd like to talk about, you can just contact me, or if there's something that you'd like discussed at a future call, you can let me know as well, and we'll slot it in. And we definitely have the right team on the call to chat about protocol issues. So there are other ways to get involved with Zcash generally. I mentioned Zcash community grants, which funded Jason to be the note taker, but they do a lot of wonderful grants for a number of different kind of programs. So you can definitely, if you have an interest in potentially applying for a grant, zcashcommunitygrants.org. We've also recently established a grant program with Filecoin for projects that jointly benefit both Zcash and Filecoin. Pretty excited about that. We've got some interest from people already. And right now you can email either one of these two addresses, but we're about to get a grant webpage up, if you will, that has more details on actually how to apply. That should be coming any day now. And then of course, there's the Zcash R&D Discord that if you're interested in protocol development or really anything R&D related for Zcash, I'd encourage you to join in there. Okay, with that, we will move into the node status updates. So we'll turn it over to, typically it's Conrado.
Yep.
And I can leave the slide up, or I can let you share your screen, whatever you'd like to do.
You can leave them up. Thank you.
Okay.
So lately, we were working on making Zebra work as a light wallet backend, and it's mostly done. There's one issue that we're investigating, some test failure that only happens in CI, which is annoying, but we investigated. Hopefully it's not a bug, it's just some CI issue. But other than that, it's working. We tested with wallets, it's with Nighthawk and Zach Wallet. So that's good. We're glad that we finished that chunk of work. Something which also happened that I mentioned the last Arborist call. I was testing our DNS seeder because the foundation maintains one of the DNS seeders, and it was behaving weirdly, returning offline. Here's a sim to be offline. It was a bunch of issues that together had presented this problem. So basically, the first not issue, but what was happening is that there is a bunch of Flux nodes, right, which is a fork of Zcash, and for some reason, their number increased a lot recently. There's, I think, 8,000 nodes, and Ordinance Header was not enforcing a minimum protocol version, so that was one of the issues. Another issue was that Ordinance Header was returning peers regardless of the port they use. But since the DNS headers, they can't, they just return a list of IPs. They can't return the port which they're listening to. So the DNS header should only return peers using the default ports. So ours wasn't doing that. So that was another problem that we also fixed it. And Flux is using a different port, so that's why it was causing problems for us. But all of that has been fixed. We already updated, deployed the updated version, so our DNS seeder is working, should be working fine. There's another DNS seeder which is maintained by George, who used to work at the foundation. So I reached out to him for him to also update his seeder. And also during that testing, I discovered that some Zcash nodes, Zcashd nodes, were returning some Flux peers. And I reported the bug. I think you investigated, but Chad mentioned that probably something related to the peers dot the date file, which I think stores the peers when the node is restarted, I think. But yeah, I think you already are working on it. But yeah, that's been mostly fixed on our side, on our seeder. Another thing that we did in this past 2 weeks, we added support for Tokyo Console in Zebra, which is a tool to view. We use Tokyo to manage, async, to do async programming in Zebra, tasks and stuff like that. And this tools allows you to view it, what is going on, how many tasks are running, how much CPU are they using, on what they are blocked, and this was really interesting. It's a really interesting tool. It shows like a terminal with a list of tests, like top in Linux, right? But for tests. And we already noticed it gave us a warning about some tests not having wakers registered that we're investigating. Could be a source of issues. But we just did this, so and the next step will be to better analyze the output of the tool and check if there's anything we can do to increase Zebra performance or reliability. But that's something exciting that we have been wanting to do for some time. And other than that, we're mostly cleaning up things, CI documentation, the config file format for Zebra. We had a bunch of stuff that we left for later because it wasn't critical, but it's stuff that is important to do for usability, for making easier for users to deploy Zebra. So yeah, we're mostly working on that, and our goal is to do a stable release candidate of Zebra, which should come soon. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, very good. Dodger, yeah.
Yeah, regarding the Flux thing, I've got a kind of a thought or rhetorical question. I wonder if they forked before or after we included the remote shutdown mechanism in Zcashd. And if they did fork after, I wonder if they changed the key. And I'm just gonna voice that and then leave it there. Basically, and that was specifically designed for Dara, to nerd snipe Dara a little bit.
Yeah.
I will check. We removed that quite a while ago, so my guess is probably they forked after. I'll check. And report it as a bug to them if that is the case. I'll be nice.
Or we could demo it to them.
Yeah, there you go.
But we should not.
Very good. All right, thank you, Conrado. Okay, let's see here. Oh, okay, all right, let me advance here. We'll talk about Zcashd. Over the last couple weeks, again, we've had some folks on PTO, but we did some work. There's something called cxx.rs, which we're using to replace, kind of hand-wired FFI between Rust and C++. With something that should be kind of more, like a more safe, if I understand correctly, which I don't know much about this, it kind of generates a little bit of the FFI stubs, perhaps. It's kind of what I'm guessing. Strad was working on that prior to going on PTO. So with that, we've updated the Zcash address to enable parser errors to be exposed, which is pretty handy for people looking to parse addresses. We integrated something called cargo-vet into the build system. Okay, Ying Tong, see you later. Which is kind of a way to check the dependency. Again, if I understand correctly, to kind of establish that your dependencies are the correct dependencies and you're pulling in what you believe you're pulling in. So we integrated that. We've been working on the recursion related APIs in Halo, making good progress on that. And then we've been working for some time. We actually kind of paused work on it because we didn't want our CI to be in any kind of state of flux around the NU5 activation. But we've been working on a really substantial update to our CI system to improve reliability and build and test time. So that's getting really close. Should have that deployed here almost any day now, and we're really looking forward to that. There'll be some incremental improvements over time with that, but this is a long-term project that we're about to deploy. So that'll make everyone really happy that builds and runs Zcashd and submits PR. So let's see, any questions about any of that? Oh yeah, Larry posted in chat, in case anyone isn't familiar, CXX is a general convention for C++, but works in contexts where special characters wouldn't be allowed. So think of the X's as 45-degree rotated plus characters. That's a good point. Okay. All right. And then ecosystem update, or sorry, I have the wrong title on that slide. I just realized. Ecosystem update for NU5. At the last Arborist call, we had one exchange that was working through a few issues. Coinbase, we had actually worked with Coinbase for a few months leading up to NU5 activation, but the team that we were working with wasn't really aware that there was kind of an older deprecated way of interacting with Zcash that was used on the retail side. So they had the, I assume, institutional side of things working well and tested weeks in advance of NU5 activating, but then found the retail code used a different code base for that. So we work with them over the course of like a week and a half after NU5 activated to get squared away. Strad did a number of pairings with them. It was kind of complicated by the fact they had a new team that wasn't super familiar with that particular part of the code, and then had really not worked with like a previous like a Bitcoin based type coin before. So, but anyway, they're a great group of people. We really enjoy working with them, and Strad did an excellent job. They've kind of come back after the fact and said, hey, is there a way we can not have to do some of this kind of transaction parsing ourselves? So we're also looking at doing something, implementing something called UniFFI, which or maybe pronounced Unify, I'm not positive, but it essentially generates language bindings for a number of languages for Rust. So we're thinking that might be a way that they can just rely on our Rust crates for the type things that they need to do themselves. But yeah, it's a great group of folks to work with. On the wallet side, Nighthawk, Unstoppable Edge, Zec Wallet Lite, all versions are fully functional as far as we know. Ledger is fully functional again. Ledger typically upgrades when something stops working. although we kind of, let them know ahead of time that that's coming. But that's fully functional. Coin Metrics is fully functional. And then Block Explorers, they're fully functional. We have an update to get and decode raw transaction, which is a couple of RPCs in Zcashd, which will provide Orchard trend. What that adds is the ability to see details about Orchard transactions. Obviously not the sender, receiver, or amount, but like number of actions, for example. Our plan is to include that in our next release of Zcashd, which will be 5.10. And that will probably be late next week, early the following week, which is roughly about 6 weeks after 5.00. And that's kind of the cadence that we like to follow in normal circumstances. If we're not, obviously not a hot fix, or we're not bumping up against some kind of EOS halt, which in this case we're not. So, okay, any questions about any of this before I move on, or I should say before I stop sharing my screen, because that was my my last slide. Let me verify that. Yeah, that's it. Okay, I'll stop sharing so I can see everyone again. So, anyone have any questions or comments for anyone, Zebra team, Zcash team, or just anything else related to protocol? All right, all quiet. That's good. I think everyone's, we were talking yesterday about NU5, and it's kind of like you're in a bit of a, it's like it's great that it's activated, that it's, successful. There are no kind of major issues, and also that it's kind of in the rear view mirror. That feels really good, as opposed to it's something that you're still kind of climbing, if you will, to like the top of a summit or something, and still have a lot of hard work ahead of you. But yeah, so that's it's a great feeling to kind of be back, less stress, less pressure, less sense of urgency around certain things. So anyway, I've said it before, just congratulations to everyone, up from ECC and the foundation and all our ecosystem partners who just did a phenomenal job over a long period of time to make NU5 successful. So yeah.
Dodger, would you like the answer to your question?
Oh.
About the alert key for Flux nodes. Yes, they did change the key.
Ah.
Good for them. Change the network magic.
They have a comment. They changed the key and they have a comment saying Zell Technologies GmbH. So I assume that's their key.
Ah. Okay. Excellent. All right, very good. Well, look, everyone have a good rest of the day. Again, I apologize for a little bit of snafu in the scheduling time, but it seemed to work out okay. And have a good weekend as well. We'll catch up in Discord. So talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheerio.
Thank you.
Bye.